Welcome back, everybody. Foreign policy seemingly top of mind for the White House during President Trump's winter getaway at Mar-a-Lago. The U.S. attacking an alleged camp of ISIS militants, accusing the terror group of targeting Christians in Nigeria. While at the same time, the U.S. military continues its massive buildup in the Caribbean amid a standoff with Venezuela. Joining me now is political historian and independent political analyst, Rich Rubino. Rich, thank you for being here. I'm really glad we got you because I think you have a unique perspective, given that you are a political historian here. I do want to start with these airstrikes in Nigeria on Christmas Day. The administration threatening, they're threatening many more. What other shows of force could we potentially see? Could we expect?
I think we're probably going to expect a little bit of what we've had so far, which is basically going after, remember, this is not going after Nigeria, the country. We're not necessarily at war with Nigeria, but it's going after parts that they believe are controlled by the Islamic State or by ISIS. So that's really what it is. It's basically a joint venture. And if the United States is actually sharing and they're acting in concert with the Nigerian government, Donald Trump said that it was doing it on Christmas Day in part because it was a Christmas present. But he also said that it was because there were Christians that the Islamic State were going after. They're actually going after Christians, but they're also going after moderate Muslims as well.
So I want to read off some information, for people at home. They're listening. I'm sure you know this, but when you look at recent data, it shows, more than 20,000 civilians have been killed in Nigeria between January of 2020 and September of 2025, including 317 Christians and 417 Muslims. Nigeria's foreign minister says it's not just Christians. It's a regional issue. Question for you. How do you, fight against groups like ISIS who just, go on rampages and kill indiscriminately?
Yeah, it's something that the United States learned right after September 11th when they didn't, although the war was in Afghanistan, it was not necessarily against Afghanistan per se. The real war, I think, was against the United States, framed it anyway, was against al-Qaeda. And it was the Taliban in Afghanistan. They weren't going after the Taliban because the Taliban was controlling Afghanistan, but because they were harboring al-Qaeda and they were harboring Osama bin Laden. So since 2001, I think the global war on terror, this really has been about as much more so in many respects against non-state actors, against Hezbollah, for example, against the Islamic State than going against countries. And sometimes in the case of Nigeria, the United States, I think, is from certainly a positive standpoint, has a government that is also sympathetic to its demands, even though it is very much going after the Islamic State as well. So in some cases, it's countries working together against non-state actors.
Yeah. So you kind of queued me up for this. How much of this should be led by the Nigerian government?
That's a great question, and I think that when Donald Trump was running for president, part of his platform was he was going to be a non-interventionist in foreign policy, that there would be a de-emphasis of foreign policy, there would be more emphasis on domestic policy. I think that Donald Trump really has emphasized foreign policy in his first 2 years in office, and I think this is something, what's happening in Nigeria, what's happening certainly going after ships that are coming out of Venezuela. I think some on the kind of non-interventionist right, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, like Rand Paul, like Ron Paul, would say that the United States really needs to focus only on issue only when it directly affects the United States, as opposed to this kind of intermestic where everything is kind of amalgamated between foreign policy and domestic policy. But that's something that's really, I think, a civil war, really an internecine fight in the Republican Party, in the conservative movement contemporaneously.
Yeah, you mentioned Venezuela just a second ago, so perfect segue here because, they have been top of mind really for months now. There are reports that U.S. Special Forces are being sent to the Southern Caribbean. What would their presence down there, in your eyes, your expertise, signal to you?
Yes, again, this is Donald Trump, I think, moving away from what I think was basically what I think a lot of thought was going to be his second term, was going to be where he would really emphasize domestic policy. Now, again, he is somebody who I think will say that what he's emphasizing is American interests, as opposed to, say, just being involved in other nations' affairs and entangling alliances, that type of a thing. But I think that it would be a very interesting. There's going to be, again, a civil war in the Republican Party over this, about what the United States should be doing in Venezuela. I think that most of the fentanyl does not come from Venezuela. It's more of the cocaine that comes from Venezuela. But I think that this really is something that really could envelope much of his second term. And I think many Democrats could argue in the elections that we should really be focusing on issues like the affordability crisis. So he might be giving Democrats an issue there potentially.
Rich Rubino, you're right. I mean, there's kind of this butting of heads, but unfortunately, that is all we have time for. Thank you so much for your time here on a Saturday early evening. We appreciate you.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on again.
All right, now to this story.